Morality. Who says Christmas has to end just after the 25th? Come join us as we continue to celebrate through the new year on TWB with A Christmas Story, A Christmas Story Christmas, and Jingle All the Way. It's Turbo Time! And welcome to the Writer Brothers Christmas Cringe special. I am your host, Petey York, joined, as always, by the lovely Mr. Corione, Witch in Residence, and that dumbass right beneath me. Gentlemen, we made it. We have almost made it to our first year of broadcast. We are taking a break from our usual shows and our usual interests to take a look at some of our favorite Christmas movies. Well, one of our favorite Christmas movies. And the sequel, which was quite impressive. But how was everybody's Christmas? Did everybody get what they wanted? I got some money, so that was nice.
Oh yeah. I had a wonderful night with family and friends, and that's exactly what I wanted.
Awesome. And for those of you who've just joined us, please feel free to share in the chat what how Christmas was. Hopefully it was good. If it wasn't, well, keep it to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. We'll try to listen to your problems, but we do also still have a show to do. So, gentlemen, A Christmas Story has really proven itself to be a staple in American Christmas tradition. I mean, I remember when TNT started broadcasting, doing their 24 hours of A Christmas Story, and before that, of course, watching it first growing up. And, I mean, the movie's... it's hands down a classic. I mean, if you want to understand, you want to teach people about American Christmases, that's it. There's your little hour-and-a-half documentary right there. But John, why don't you go ahead and go first? Why do you like A Christmas Story, and why is it the greatest Christmas movie ever made?
I don't. I never really have.
Oh, goody! I'll fight to start off the night.
Like, I enjoyed it as, like, a Christmas movie, and I do get the, like, man, I've watched it every Christmas, including this one, unfortunately. Almost every Christmas. For years. And it's... I don't like it because I don't think it's that great of a story. If anything, it is, like, exactly what all parents think their kids are thinking about Christmas and how important Christmas is.
Alright, enough of that crap. Corione! No, I'm just kidding. Cheers, Scogliotin, you just joined the chat. Welcome. If you didn't start the broadcast, John's telling us why he's wrong and not liking Christmas Story. No, I'm just giving him a hard time. No, this is fascinating because I actually had a friend at work who hates the movie too, and I'm like, why? And he's like, oh, because it's played all the time. And I'm like, so you just...
I don't hate it. I just think it is, like, the most... like you said, this is a perfect representation of American Christmas.
It is.
And damn, is that boring.
Well,
like, I don't care. I live it myself.
Yeah,
like,
no, I was
watching somebody else's Christmas. It's like, oh look, we're gonna do the same things. Oh look, I feel the same ways. And
yeah. Well, guess what? I actually
point except for Chinese food.
I actually can one up you here on this one, and I'm going to. I actually worked in a Chinese restaurant this Christmas, so I also lived A Christmas Story in my own way. Yeah, there wasn't like that. That's a little bit exaggerated, but you know what? Okay, we're gonna bring up the controversial
it's not
scene.
Exaggerated. It's
it is
generation people. They don't have L.
Right.
In
correct.
any Asian-speaking language, they don't have the letter L. So when you tell them to say la 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 la, they're like ra 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 because it's the closest sound they can think of. Because they don't have it in their alphabet.
Okay, so I'm saying that part's exaggerated because while I did work at a Chinese restaurant this Christmas, there wasn't any caroling or singing. But they were, wishing everybody Merry Christmas, and we were trying to provide a good food to dining experience for everybody who needed it. There's actually one guy who came in who ended up having his kids brought over last minute, and so he decided to eat from us, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, no, but everybody, like, it wasn't, the
Pause.
controversy
I just
behind that
realized
scene is stupid, of course. I mean, it goes without saying. What we're
Corian
saying.
and I are muted.
No,
No?
I'm here.
No, we're muted on the broadcast. I just realized I'm the only... I haven't...
No,
Really?
you're going through.
Sure?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
got you unmuted.
Weird.
All right. Well, for me,
I mean, if someone watching wants to confirm whether or not we can hear John and Corion, that'd be great. But from my end, no, I've got the
No, I'm
soundboard
just
in front of
coming
me.
Super quiet.
yeah,
A little
Scogli,
quiet,
if
yeah.
you can confirm, that'd be awesome. But yeah, for me, I mean, this movie, if you grew up in North America, you've experienced at least one scene from this movie in your life.
Oh, absolutely.
At least one, right? And I mean, Scogli, thank you so much. That's awesome to hear.
Yes, we
Okay.
appreciate it. We can't do this without the support of viewers like you. Literally.
There you
And in more ways than one.
You,
Yeah.
Scogli, so thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, to me, that's the big takeaway. I think one of the other ones that is another big kind of takeaway is we all have this view of our dad as the kind of a hero, if you will, almost in a lot of ways. Even if he had kind of a terrible dad, there are like moments where you can look at your dad as like, this was his jam, right? And you know, that's really what came through to me on it as well, is like how much this kid looked up to his father, and yet, you know, was still willing to you know, maybe defy him a little bit and goof off and goof around a bit. And, you know, you feel for the dad too, because he's counting on a lot of things happening and just none of it comes together. But he still manages to work hard to make that Christmas happen for his family. That's ultimately the biggest takeaway, right? I mean, when you're a dad, you will do anything you possibly can for your kids. Anything you can. And that's kind of what comes across for me in Christmas Story. And, you know, between that and, you know, just some of the hilarious scenes of like life in, you know, a northern hemisphere kind of area where you do get snow, all of those scenes happen. You know, the snowball fight is, you know, the classic that will never die, right? Some idiot getting their tongue stuck to a metal pole in the middle of winter happens every year, right?
Oh, you find plenty of videos on YouTube of idiots doing idiotic things, especially during the cold.
How much of that is because of the movie?
I think by this time, Jackass has taken the cake for encouraging stupidity.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not saying encouraging stupidity. I'm just saying I never thought of licking a pole until I saw this movie and how funny it looked, and then had to see if it was true.
Well,
You didn't specifically not learn the lesson of the movie. Please
Many
tell me
times.
you didn't do
I just
that.
never got stuck. I fortunately never tried it in negative, like, I think it's like, is it 20 below? Not negative
Yeah.
20, but
But that'll do.
it's something like 20.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's more like, I get what you're saying, John, and I understand. I'm not actually serious about it being the greatest Christmas. I think that there's a huge, that's probably something we could do at TWB over the next 3 to 5 years, is amass a bunch of Christmas movies, and then we'll figure out which one's the greatest ever. I mean, some would probably argue It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street. Yeah, I guess. And then Scogli Jotun writes in, the scene where Santa kicks him down the slide is gold, and then he adds, -10 is totally fine, go try it. I hated it. I did a patrol up in the Bering Sea in February, it was terrible. It's, yeah, that scene where he does that, the whole thing is, it's literally is just, it's pretty much the quintessential Christmas film. Like, yeah, its plot is pretty basic, it's a Christmas story. What more do you want?
Well, no, so like my thing about Chris
It's a
is
comical
like,
Norman Rockwell is what it is.
well,
Right.
It's just more my general apprehension to regular life. Like, I'm one of the few people who don't think that this world is too hard to live in. I find this world to be pretty mundane and monotonous for the most part, and so watching a movie that's mundane and monotonous is hard. And that's what I love about Christmas movies in general, is they almost always have some magic. Just a little bit
Especially
of
the last one we're talking
something.
about.
Exactly. And that to me is like, in terms of which of the three is my favorite that we're talking about tonight, Jingle All the Way, because it took the time to take the fight of the dad, the goal of the dad to do the right thing, despite also spending all of his time working. And so he's trying to win Father of the Year in 12 hours. And that's a fun, high stakes event. Whereas in A Christmas Story, it's like coming of age during the time, like right when Santa's still kind of real to you. And it's like, okay, I get it. But like Santa Claus, I loved the Santa Claus trilogy. My whole family, we rewatched those on the way up to Christmas. Elf is always one of my favorite. I mean, I love Will Ferrell till the day I die. Bad Moms, I love Bad Moms Christmas with Mila Kunis. That is one of my favorite Christmas movies because I feel like it's the opposite side of the story, and the side that actually does the hard part. The decorating the house, the making it smell good, the making it feel like Christmas. That's your mom and your wife, not the dad. The dad's the one that goes and pays for it. And that to me is like why Bad Moms tops Christmas Story, especially just because, I don't know, I lived the male side. I know and am living the dad side of the male side now. So like I understand that plight. I have no idea what it's like to be a mom. And in that instance, it's like, oh, this is a fun, interesting thing to learn about.
Yeah, Skogliote writes it, says, I feel the Norman Rockwell aesthetic is a huge influence to this movie. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Also, did you get everything you wanted for Christmas? Tell us about your Christmas joy, the chat. And yes, for anyone just joining us, please share your Christmas cheer this year, or lack thereof. We're here to discuss things. If
you didn't get your BB gun, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was I actually did get a Red Riker BB gun in Star Trek Online this year. Anyway, for me, I relate a lot to the dad, which is weird because I'm not a dad, believe it or not. And it was like every single scene that he had, I was just, when the kid's doing the whole "how do the piggies eat" and he's just like from behind the paper. Oh, I was like, oh my gosh, that's totally how I am now, especially around my brother's kids, and everything else from there. Just being fed up with the dogs. Maybe I don't know. Okay, I don't.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like if you were ever to become a dad, you would be Red from that 70s show. There'd be a lot of boot up ass comments.
Might as well just sew a boot onto the back of their pants at that point, Yeah, that's exactly.
Because I was Parker until I had a kid. Exact same, tired of children. But like, they say like, what's the thing that like being a dad changes you? Like, what is it? You finally have a reason to be soft again. Like, your whole life as a man, you're told, be harder than the world, be stiff, be tough, be the thing that everybody can rely upon, but never needs.
Which is a bunch of societal programming and bullshit.
Exactly. And once you have a kid, you're like, oh, that's where the lie started. My parents were telling me what they knew that they were told by what they were told. But I have the internet to go, yeah, they were told a bunch of crap. And so now I can be soft and silly and wear pink and not be like, oh no, my son's gonna change. It's like I don't care what he ends up as. I love him.
Oh, it's good.
Fine.
Well,
end of stage.
I care about what my daughter. Well, hold on.
I really don't want your son.
My daughter is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, John.
I care about what my daughter is because I want my daughter to be happy. That is the goal for me.
Yeah, if your son grows up to be Jeffrey Dahmer, John, I'm gonna have a problem with that.
I will
just
too,
saying.
But I'll still love him. But that's the worst part. Like,
Dahmer's
to me,
parents
that's
still do.
the curse. Like, that's the double-edged sword of having a child, is that like, I can now understand why Jeffrey Dahmer's dad still loved him. Like that is the like I've listened to like horror and serial killer like all kinds of documentaries, and I've always been like, man, if my kid ever did that, I would put him down. And it's like, nope. Now that I have a kid,
well,
I understand.
And I'm
like,
just saying,
no,
I
would be the first to narc on him, and I would tell him to his face. I'd be like, hey, I'm 99% sure you're the killer, so we're gonna sit here till the police arrive. And they're gonna search your house, even if you bought it.
We're gonna sit here till the police arrive. You mean? Yeah, exactly.
But the whole time I'm gonna tell him, be like, look, I'm gonna visit you in person. I'm gonna come every week. I love you. I don't know what I did wrong, but I will figure it out. And we will figure it out. But you're fucked. You need to go out of society. And that to me
I'm glad that you've thought about this, because I was really just, one, I hope that doesn't happen, and two, it was just kind of meant as an exaggeration. But you know what, on the Writer Brothers, we take exaggerated ball-busting comments and we turn it into education, so.
To the audience, if you're wondering what anxiety looks like when a dad has it and is willing to speak about it out loud, this is it. I have had a lot of these thoughts. What if your son ends up gay? What if your son wants to be transgender? What happens if everything that could go wrong does go wrong? How are you, Dad, gonna respond? And I have those thoughts all the time. So we can play that game one day if we want.
To answer those ones for me, if my daughter turns out gay, my response is going to be something along the lines of, "Look, I still expect grandchildren." You know.
Dude,
okay, but you just set the expectations even higher than if she was straight. Good job.
I'm
hey, you know,
promoting familial growth. I don't think we need more people in this world.
No, but that's the funniest part about it, right? Like that's the best response you can give to a situation like that, because it's a curveball, right? And you know, if my kid turned, I would basically do okay, so I guess, you know, we've got to teach you. I guess it's my responsibility then to teach you how to shave as opposed to your mom's. Okay, right? Like, you know, all right, you know, that's what happens. Like, you know?
I like the best one I've heard is this son comes home and tells his dad he's gay, and he looks at him dead in the face and goes, "Same rule as your sister. No boys in your room with the door closed."
Yeah. Basically.
And that's it.
Yeah. Skoglioten writes, it says, "My mind won't stop. I overanalyze and completely try to take everything in, and I'm super aware, and everyone else seems to be astonishingly vacant." Skogli, you like my long-lost twin brother that's
same thing.
That I've never met before? Because, yeah, I'm on all the time. It can be stressful at times, but for some reason, my brain requires occupation and sometimes... But that's why I also try to, you know... It's misprint version here,
it's
but
your brain's version of a shark that can't stop swimming.
That's why I try to be productive about it.
Guys, the only thing I can say to that is, look, if it was a physical thing where your body run all the time, you go to the treadmill, you go to the gym, right? If your brain's trying to run all the time, go to the mental gym. Get in your meditation time. Do the work to focus that mind down a little bit if you can, right? Not everyone's going to be able to. Some brains work differently, but it helps, right? It doesn't hurt to do a couple of mental push-ups, right?
Never. And that's why, studies are showing that people who play video games tend to have higher intelligence, because it's a way to exercise the brain. Now, it's not perfect by any means, and I personally think that those of us who play MMOs might be a little bit higher on the intelligence, but... Huh?
Why do you think that is, though? Is that because they've never made a game with, actual, things to benchmark and be good at learning faster? Because they never believed that games were capable of teaching you as fast as they are? Because
well, yeah, actually, there was a time... There's an article out there that... Well, you would think it aged like milk if you read it, but I analyzed it a little further and I realized, well, it's not entirely inaccurate. It's so for the time that it came out, this article was like that video games are useless, they'll have no purpose. Well, at the time this happened, this is when arcades were in abundance. The point of it was you take your quarter, you put it in, and you play till you die. And there's no real winning those types of games because they're specifically designed and the market is there to get you to keep paying the quarters. So in that marketability instance, yes, that article was correct, because if games had stayed with that business model instead of moving to the home console system and obviously blowing up to what they are now, then that article's correct. So I think...
the funny thing is that article was still correct when they transitioned, because a lot of console developers were like, how do we make games? Arcade games. Let's make arcade games on our consoles. I think the biggest thing, and I think you said it perfectly, is people keep saying fun is just a fad. Anything remotely entertaining is a fad and it will die out. And it's like, yeah, because you keep stamping it out, when in reality, fun is free motivation. If you can make a thing fun, you've already got, why am I doing this? Well, I enjoy doing it. Now turn it into work. Now turn it into output. Now turn it into extra. Don't just like go, oh, well, this is just a fun gimmick. It's gonna burn real quick.
And by that logic, let's just stop watching all movies. Let's burn all the books. You know, we don't want this fun thing to get in the way of
there
productivity.
Was a time when book writers legitimately said movie TV will never be as intrinsically valuable as a book. And nowadays, there are movies and TV shows that are punching books out of the water.
Guys, I'll even go with this.
Not necessarily
adaptations. You want a video game that won?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you want a video game that, one, tells a fantastic story, two, is fairly educational, and three, I would actually consider art. Okay? Check out Stray. Stray, you have, I mean, it seems like, like the premise seems kind of weird, right? You're a cat in a post-apocalyptic future. But when you consider the lack of agency a cat has in society, right? And then you look at everything this cat does just to try to get back to its family. And you start to realize that this is not just a story, it's not just art, and it's not just like a good mental workout, it's all three in one. And, that is my 100% counter to anyone that makes any argument against video games, is play Stray all the way through. I mean, realistically, it took me like... Yeah.
Play the stories on SWTOR.
Realistically, it took me about 6 hours to get through.
Yeah. No, Skoglioten writes in, loved Stray. I mean, play the story stuff. Story games are, I think, what really do it, because you get the experience of a good story while also having to learn the mechanics and figure out the proper patterns and strategize, depending on what type of game you're playing. I mean, even games like Halo and Call of Duty still have their value.
Into the story at any moment.
Say again?
While also being able to control how often you get into the heavy bits of the story. Like, oh man, I just got through this checkpoint and that was a hard climactic thing and I need a break. I'm gonna go wander the shops. And then I'm gonna get back into it. And it's like, name a movie where you can take a break halfway through and still be watching the movie and still be 100% involved in the main storyline, while also taking a nice detour through the shops and upgrading your character. That you can't do that in movies. You get to change the way that the characters are dressed. But in video games you do. You get to change normal mundane things, but then you also, like games like Mass Effect, where you can change the ending, where they challenge you, KOTOR. They let you decide, are you going to be the good guy or the bad guy? Like, I don't think that these are in any way adequate ways of deciding if a player that plays the dark side is going to end up being a serial killer.
I would argue it's a form of blow-off valve.
Well, exactly. So, like, my thing though is I think that there's a way to get it to that good. I think that there's a way
it's already there
to eventually get your your paragons and stuff like that, like where your meters change what type of person you are in the game. And I think that there's a way to eventually get it to accurately reflect who you are on the inside. But I don't think we've ever even come close. But name another system that's that close besides therapy. No other form of media in any fashion is that close besides therapy and checklists.
Well, and we'll have to. Well, actually, no, we're doing fine. It's Christmas Story, people. We're talking about video games. So there's actually a game that's supposed to be coming out. I want to say it's 6 Days in Fallujah is what it is, and it's not just based on a true story. It is a true story. The characters are modeled after real life troops that have shared their stories, and like I saw the trailer. Even the trailer gets pretty emotionally heavy, and I'm like, okay, this is the next step in storytelling, is actually getting to experience somebody else's life to that extreme.
I want to say it's the story of Dark Horse, another Marine battalion that lost Fallujah.
Yeah.
Name another nation or medium where being the losing side is the main story point.
Halo Reach.
You want another really
Video
good,
games.
well, yeah, Halo Reach was fantastic as well. But you want a video game?
Oh wait, you're serious? Let me laugh harder. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't like it.
A video game that really distills down. Okay, fair enough.
Is there a delay from my end?
A video game that really distills down. I don't know. I think.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. You stop and.
Here we go.
Okay.
Video game that really distills down writing. Okay. Game that really distills down writing to its most basic terms. Check out the game Journey. It originally came out on PlayStation. Okay. Journey is the hero's journey literally broken down into sections of the game. And it takes you through the entire hero's journey arc. If you ever plan on writing the hero's journey playthrough journey, you will then understand it significantly better than you would ever have otherwise.
All right. Well, that sounds like
I'm gonna try up and back in. I'm gonna try to drop and join back in and see if this fixes the lag issue.
Okay, well, now that he's gone, we can finally have a real show for once. Now, it's...
What is show? Dot.
Okay, you're doing...
My
That's
not here.
No, it's... Yes, but I think that is the next phase for games, is to have those kinds of experiences. Like, I even had this crazy idea for, like, well, of course, it's probably not going to be launched off the ground because there's a lot of controversy behind it. But, like, imagine a 9/11 video game from a firefighter's perspective, or any kind of event in history like that, where you could then not just be told the story, but experience it firsthand. I mean, I know that's a heavy concept to consider, but just, I mean, that really, I think, is the next evolution, is actually taking those real stories and putting it. And I mean, and we could prove that it'll work, because I mean, Medal of Honor was successful for a reason, even though it kind of turns into, like, a heroics type World War II story. That first landing on Normandy, that was insane when I first played it. I mean, I was a younger kid then, but it's just, games have a unique way to bring stories to life that really, admittedly, books, television, and movies just can't.
Well, it's something that you were saying on Casual Filth the other day, and it's like, ever since video games are playing life without consequences, and I made a point to you saying, no, there are consequences, they're just not life or death, they're not physical.
Yeah, they're all spiritual and mental.
I think, and not even hardly spiritual, fortunately. You can be the gangsterest gangster in GTA and then still be a loving human being in real life.
And in real life, you're a total loser that goes to a 9-to-5 job. Yeah, no, that's...
And you don't punch anybody, and you don't steal anybody's car, and you don't just go shooting whenever you feel like it, even though you own tons of guns. Like, that to me is like if we ever needed a place to practice life, video games are the only thing we've created that are even close. And I know a lot of
Well-
people talk about like the metaverse and getting into that, like falling into the Matrix, and I agree that's a terrible idea, because if the Matrix isn't, or the metaverse isn't, you know, some omnipotent AI machine trying to smart us, and instead it's our own device that we've created, brought into our own homes, and then we continue to use it all day every day, then it is heroin. It is any addiction. It is equal to all of your addictions. Same with your own console, same with your own PC. Like, if you devote your whole life to a thing and you don't take ownership of your life, it's an addiction, and that is a problem. But that is a personal problem that everybody needs to handle personally.
Right.
And that's where I think that like the metaverse and Ready Player One in reality is, yeah, you will have some diehard tryhards who will die at 25 because they spent all day every day from 24 to 25 in the game and forgot to get out and gave themselves some form of failure abdominally or somewhere, like something failed. But that's not going to be everyone. Most of us are going to pop in, oh look, I'm here for a couple hours, I gotta go do dishes.
How are we going to know? How are we going to know if we shouldn't, game for 26 hours straight without peeing if somebody else doesn't do it first?
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, it sucks that guy died, but how else was the human race going to learn? We kind of learned by trial and error.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
basically the history of humanity.
Hold on. Your goal in life should not be to be a cautionary example to others, though.
Well, no shit. But that's what I'm saying. At the same time,
I consider that to be the most honorable of pursuits.
Hey, yeah, no greater love is found than of one who lays their own life down. No,
For video games.
Right.
So that you know how long you can go without peeing.
Exactly. Now, I think the answer is pretty simple. Well, it's not. It's simple, and what my answer is, execution's different, and that's education, and that's the constant reminder that indulgence in fantasy is indulgence in fantasy. It's not real life. It's not.
Well, and that adds even greater value to my point about video games and where I was trying to go, and then I just lost it, and that's. These are educational tools. Like, the reason Call of Duty is the world's like most loved game or something like that, like, just I'm saying Call of Duty because it works with the sentence. The reason that those games are loved is the reason that they're loved, but also, like, nobody loved the game at the onset. Like, nobody was like, I found this case, I know this is gonna just be the game for me, it's gonna work. No, they went in and they played and they were like, yeah, F this game, I'm out. And then they're like, booted it up again and booted it up again. And then they got good and they were like, I love this game and now I'm going to play. So that's proof that that there was a learning curve. Once the curve was achieved, it didn't go away. It's not like with math, when you go and you learn all your adding, you're not like, oh, you know what I want to go do? I'm going to go add numbers all day today. No, you're like, I gotta get on to division, I gotta get on to subtraction. But with Call of Duty, you can be like, I don't know how to play, I can play plateau, I'm playing. And that's it. And you'll keep playing, you'll keep booting it. But that's not math, that's not writing, that's not reading, that's none of our other forms of education or learning are like, you know what I want to do? Go do some more of that practice again. Whereas Call of Duty, it was never practice, it was always game day. From the moment you jumped into multiplayer, from the moment you jumped into the single player game, it was game day. And you keep playing, you keep going back, even though you sucked at the beginning. Whereas, like, if you had the option to quit taking math, most of us would quit taking math after the first math day.
Oh, I don't know about that. You're talking to the...
Most, not all.
Okay.
I definitely
fair.
wasn't one. I'm a nerd.
Yeah, I mean...
and through.
Like, you're talking to one of the guys that literally took every available advanced math that he could get his hands on. Because
I got up to calculus and then failed out.
Okay. Yeah, I took calculus, algebra, geometry, and finite, all in the same year, actually. Yeah, my senior year of high school was finite, algebra, geometry, calculus, physics, computer science, and then ancient history.
But how much of that was playing
spares.
video games along the way?
All of it.
Exactly. Like, I have yet to meet somebody who loves football, loves any other physical game, and is also super into physics, math, science, and is super into learning about the rest of the world. But I know so many gamers that are like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Shakespeare, but like Hamlet really, it's like, dude, why do you know anything about Shakespeare? We were talking about video games. And it's like, well, it's all connected. You got to know good story writing when you know good reading. And, you know, and that's what I learned about black holes. And it's like, why did you learn about black holes? Well, I was playing this space game and I wanted to know if the physics were real.
Oh,
why do you care? Well,
dude.
Because like I'm playing a game and it matters to me.
Oh yeah,
and it's like football players aren't like, oh, I need to know about the trajectory of my football. I just need to throw harder.
Yeah, no, honestly, my favorite example of that is when Kerbal Space Program came out, and 3 months later, every single person there suddenly understood and could have like deep discussions about like astrophysical navigation, and like, you know, oh well, I'll use a gravity assist from this planet and that planet and this third planet, and I'll loop around this one about 6 times, just so I can be slightly more efficient in my fuel consumption. Right?
And that
you
wasn't NASA.
Suddenly leaking Mars mission. Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, it's like, you know, clearly they don't know what they're doing in comparison to my experience in this video game, right? Like, that's the kind of craziness that we saw, and it was fantastic.
Well, it's not just craziness, it's motivation. Like, what
yeah.
other thing makes you want to research like video games? Like, that to me is like, everybody's been trying to find what's the thing that are going to get our kids in the classroom wanting to be in the classroom. Well, if you told them every 20 minutes that they pay attention, they get 15 minutes of video games, no kid's going to want to come home ever. And if you then get those kids to make video games that then make it so those 20 minutes of education are now just all video game time that is educational.
Whoa, but John, if you let them have fun in the classroom, then they won't be programmed for the 9 to 5 to work at the factories and the office jobs.
But we're not programmed for that either as it is.
Well, we were never really meant for post-industrial life. That's all a bunch of made-up bullshit, too.
No, we totally were. We always have been. It's the evolution of society as we don't have to worry about... As we don't have to worry about our safety.
I'm sorry. No,
industry.
I have to hard disagree with that there. While we can certainly advance our industry, looking back and actually studying the way that Carnegie and all those other assholes went about it, they went about it in a way that enriched themselves. It was not about the betterment of humanity or society. It was about themselves. Ford was also an asshole too.
No, Ford was a super anti-Semitic.
Yeah, he was a full-on racist Nazi.
No, he was not a full-on racist Nazi. He was more like...
He provided trucks to the Germans in World War II. Like, the fact that Ford hasn't been canceled tells me all I need to know about Huh?
The reason we didn't get into World War II is not because we were like, that's not our fight, not our problem. No, it's because German lobbyists were successfully paying off our government to keep us out of it.
Yep.
And so you can't blame Ford for being like, oh, well,
now I can, because
just like Boeing, just like...
I can. I can call them out, and I'm going to.
You can call him out. No problem. But you can't blame him for being the one that like profited off of it when the entire U.S. government profited off of it until they couldn't any longer see December 7th Pearl Harbor. Like, we would have just continued letting them do their thing because we were that bad. But
what is the point that you want to make real quick? Because this is turning into a rogue council. Not that I'm offended by that.
So Ford spent a bunch of his time and manpower, and he's the one that came up with the 40-hour work week. And his idea...
Oh, so he's the one I'm supposed to blame.
No.
You're not, mate. You're just making this case harder for me. For yourself.
Because I'm not done. So he came up with the 40-hour work week. The idea was that for 22% of your life, I will give you all of the money and all of the education to do your job at my company and live your life outside of that 22%, however you feel. And so he didn't have manager level 1. He didn't have GMs or RMs or DMs or any of that. What he had was, I've got some people that are really good at managing. They're managers. They all make the same pay. Every position was about you. Once you got into the company, you could start laterally transferring until you found your hole to sit in and live in for the rest of your life in the company. And the money wasn't ever about the incentive. You were getting your raises annually because you committed another year of hard labor to the company, and the company rewarded you for that. His whole thought process was, I need bodies. I'm going to incentivize those bodies to come work for me. And he was selling his company as a place of work worth working at. And the thing that you need to blame Ford for is not getting that out there to everyone. Because not only, if everyone started running their business as if it was their house, and they were trying to make it the nicest, funnest house to spend your 22% of your life at, we would have a lot less people getting burned out and tired of working 40 hours a week. But because every business is going to nickel and dime operating costs down to the bare minimum.
Why do you think
their house
right?
Is
why
the bare minimum?
Why do you think they stock
everything ever?
Why do you think they stock toxic styrofoam cups in the coffee room? Why do you think they never replace the coffee machine until it's absolutely necessary? Why do they think they use disposable plastic cups for the water cooler?
And that, to me, that's the part that Ford got right in his understanding, and that's the part that video games also gets right, because video games are that same thing. You can't just look at the case and know you're gonna have a good time, so they build a house for you to play in, and you get to go and you play, and you also make them a ton of money because you're having fun. And that's where I think microtransactions and all this other stuff are failing, is because they're stripping the fun and just trying to get the money.
Well, video games are serious business, bro. Okay?
Well, yeah.
If you're having fun, it's because you suck.
$1 million of fun before microtransactions.
Yeah, I know.
Microtransactions
guys,
are
I
the
hate to be that
reason
guy,
the market
but
went down.
Aren't we supposed to be talking about Christmas movies?
Yeah, well, without Ford, we wouldn't have Christmas or something. I don't know. Anyway, John, those are good points, and I will admit that regarding that's true. That I can at least admit that even though I'm not a fan of Ford for, some reasons are petty, others are legit, I would think. No, that's a valid point, and I'm glad he was able to do something. Guess what?
Well,
President Andrew Jackson did some good shit too. But
my big thing is, if you really want to know about Ford and what he did good, read his autobiography. That was
I don't want to just know what he did good. I think we're at a point in our human history where we need to start accepting that people have their flaws.
No.
But
what he did good is on the level of Tesla and Franklin. He mathematically developed solid systems of organization, planning. He actually found out a literal, and proved it, way to farm 3 months and produce all of the annual output of cropping and everything like that. So farmers would, if they had adopted Ford's method, they would have been done farming every year 3 months, 90 days.
Well,
and they failed.
So
his autobiography goes into that kind of detail. He mathematically figured that kind of stuff out, not just.
Well, I appreciate the education. No, I really do. That we like to have certain. We're talking about mental stimulation. There we go. We got some little background into why John likes Ford. Chevy is a superior machine, regardless. So, in the interest of sequels and properly continuing a classic, this year we got A Christmas Story Christmas, and wow. There is, I thought I related to the dad in the first one. Again, without the kids, I basically am the dad in this movie. Struggling author, hot and clumsy wife. That's about it. But I do want to point out, did anybody catch the super meta joke in the beginning when they go to the house? Did anybody pick up on that? Because I had to rewind it. Well, I rewound it once, and then our internet was being stupid, so it rewound itself 5 times, so I had to watch this scene 5 times so it's burned into my brain. But when he's pulling up to the house and he says, "Oh, there it is, my house. It hasn't changed in a day. It hasn't changed, or no." It says it's
hasn't changed in a decade.
As it's stuck, like it was stuck in time or frozen in time. Yeah, frozen in time. Did anybody catch the meta joke behind that line? Okay, so the actual Christmas Story house, it has been maintained. I don't think it actually is a national landmark, but it's basically been maintained like a national landmark. You can actually stay in it. It is a functioning bed and breakfast. And so when he said that line, "It's frozen in time," I lost my shit. Because it quite literally is frozen in time.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
I know. I was so happy when he said that.
Great.
Deep cut fourth wall break, and that is exactly how you do it when it's not okay.
Oh yeah.
That is phenomenal.
And I will. There was another scene. Okay, I think the scenes that touched my heartstrings way more than the original Christmas Story ever did was when he gets arrested, and it turns out that the cop is his old bully. And the guy's going through like these nightmare scenarios, as we're used to from this character.
Yeah, I've never done anything like that before. Being an analyst, I bet Scogliotin's never had moments like that either. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying insecure. You're insecure. Shut up.
Yeah, but the fact that he drops him off at home and says, "Hey, man, if it was any, like I freely admit, when I was a kid, I was a bit of a dick. I can do is drop you off and hey, that's what's going on. You're lucky I answered, because if it was somebody else, you would have been screwed." And I'm sitting there going like, that might be the most Christmas spirit part of the story for me, that this guy who was, a bit of a dick when he was a kid, grew up, became a good human being, and went, "Hey, I can help this guy out, and yeah, I know these guys are friends, so it's probably something to do with their friendship. I'm not going to worry about it. He's a good guy. He's just trying to do right by his family. Let's take care of it." Right? That, to me, was probably one of the best scenes when you sit down and go like, wow, this really actually has the Christmas spirit there. Right? And, I get why, some people may not totally identify with this character, but if you're a dad, you've 100% had this Christmas happen to you, where you're so determined to make a good Christmas for your family and everything just goes sideways on you, but you still manage to pull it together just somehow, right? And that was, I was sitting there going like that is so much how wonderful this is. And the fact that, the Christmas day, I'm going to call it the minor Christmas miracle that happens near the end. I don't want to ruin it for people, but the fact that it came together like that is his dad was still kind of making Christmas perfect for the family. Yeah, that touched me a lot. It really meant something to me.
Our resident our resident music provider, sorry to interrupt, we got fan mail from Michael Gabanik. Says, "Merry Christmas, y'all. Hope you had a great holiday." Same to you, bro. Thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate all of our support that comes from our viewers. And of course, we appreciate this sick audio that we have playing in the background that sometimes fades out a little bit, but it was recommended we went something a little softer, and I think it works. I like it. This movie was, you could say it's not necessary, but it's up there with the proper sequels. Empire Strikes Back. The Back to the Future trilogy is perfect, really, in my opinion.
When you opened this discussion with in the year of sequels, or nothing has ever been more of a just okay, finally, like when it comes to reboots, man, the year of reboots, we even talked about Reboot.
There was even a show called Reboot, which was a good show.
A reboot that was respectful and better. Like, I say better only because the thing that really killed me about this movie is in the last one, it really did just feel like real life. Things are happening to this family. Okay. But in the second one, it was better because the dad passes away. And in a lot of movies, I'm like, oh, that sucks for the family, I guess. Let's see how these actors act this out. But in this one, I legitimately was like, I can't watch this. This reminds me exactly of when my mom left. And I was done. And I didn't finish the movie. I couldn't. But it was because it was so good. And it just made me feel actual feelings. And I was like, those are feelings I'm not ready for. I'm not finishing this. I'm out. And I walked away. But I walked away because it was actually making me feel for real. And a movie doing that is top notch.
Yeah, and it's 100%
sequel doing that. It puts the first one to shame only because it was able to do that again.
Right, because it comes at you with real. It's the same reason why I love Deadpool, because Deadpool puts it in perfect. Like I can confirm with 100% certainty. It's not what the cancer does to you that sucks. It's what it does to the people you love. Yeah. I've seen that firsthand. And in this movie, it's like nothing prepares you for the inevitable death of a parent. That is true. And I can say with certainty leading up to our mother's passing, it was no amount of worrying or preparing for the inevitable made any difference until it happened. So my advice to everyone is,
the worst part in that instance is we got prepared for the inevitable every year for 5 years.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
That's the bullshit of cancer. The doctor will come in and say you got 1 week.
Yeah, no, I'll just
years ago.
Without turning this into a total, mental breakdown session, I will just simply say that, if you're in one of those positions where somebody's got that horrible diagnosis, be happy, be hopeful, and make the last memories count, because I've been through both. I went through that emotional roller coaster with our mother, and then I went through that with Ruth, my Key West grandmother. But with her, she wanted all of us to be it was jokes and it was good times, and if you needed to cry, that was fine, but she wanted the last memories on earth to be happy. And honestly, that's one of the greatest gifts that any of my friends have ever given me, because I think of her and I miss her a lot, but it's a good kind of pain. It's one that's worth it. And that's how you know that your love and connection with people is real, is because of that pain. And it hurts, it sucks, and you think you don't want to feel it, and there's times where you don't. But honestly, I've been through it enough so many times at this point that that's actually what makes all of it worth it. All of this experience in the end is worth it because of those connections we make, because we're able to still feel connected to those people when they're no longer in our physical realm. That's when you know that it was all worth the time and effort, the tears, the laughs, all of that time you spent with those special people. And so
never be ashamed of the tears that come later, because you can't tell them what you wanted to tell them.
Just speak it out there.
Shit, that hurts.
Speak it. Just
Don't
say
be
it.
ashamed of it.
Yeah, even if you want to say it in this, privacy of your own home, words have a lot more power than our society wants you to accept or believe.
And a much more calming effect than just
and
trying
let's
to
be
think
honest,
it through.
Grief is not like a 1 day, a 1 week, a whatever thing. It's a process that takes a very long time to work through. And sometimes you never do get over the loss of somebody. You just learn to live through it.
Oh, you never get over it.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I opened this discussion by saying it reminded me of my mom. I'm almost to a decade since it happened, and it hit me so hard, ripped me wide open. I was just like, no, not for me. And that's okay too. If you're like me, and something brings in the memories and you're like, I'm not in a place I want to deal with that, then don't. And don't
they
feel
created
bad about
tomorrow
it.
for a reason.
Grief.
Just don't put it off all the time, though.
Well, and to me, it wasn't putting it off. My thing was watching the movie. It was legitimately just like, I don't need this right now. I want to enjoy the movie, but if the movie is bogged down by me regretting and crying and thinking, then it's like, you know what?
You got to come back to it at a later time.
I can't enjoy it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I meant just more in a general sense with what I said. When it comes to grief, there's not a whole lot of right ways to grieve. There's a fuck ton of wrong ways, though. And so, you know, you just...
Well, there's a right way for the individual.
I say the wrongest wrong is never say you aren't hurting if you're hurting. Even if you don't want to get into it, even if you never want to go past it, and even if you just want to say I'm fine, because everybody fine means. But don't ever say you're okay, because you're not. And if you keep saying you're okay, you're never gonna be okay.
But you are going to be okay.
Having to pretend like you are.
You will get through whatever you're going through. That I can say is a fact. I mean, I look back on my life and some of the challenges and struggles that I've had, and I'm like, you know, it amazes me, not because from an egotistical, oh, look how cool I am. It amazes me sometimes just looking back and going, I did it. But I'm not saying this because I want you to look at how cool I am. I'm saying this if you just happen to be somebody who stumbled on our show or stream, and if you're going through something, you will be okay. But as John says, you do need to get through it. At some point, you do need to take your ship through the storm. Obligatory like, subscribe remark. If you like what we're doing here, please share, like, show the stream. We love doing this, and we love bringing our thoughts, and we love hearing your thoughts in the comment section as well.
And for those that
and I'm also going to put this out
this,
there that if you are having trouble dealing, well, let me get this one in. If you guys are just putting it out there too, if you are having trouble dealing with loss and you need somebody to talk to, look, these guys, both of them, are pretty awesome guys. This is also what I do too, is I help people get through some of this stuff. So feel free to reach out. I'm here for you guys. All right. And I know these guys are definitely here for you too.
I mean, I'll definitely try my best, but you know.
If you're wondering why we're so the way that we are, I don't know all of Corione's story, but I do know most of Parker's, and I do know most of mine. And
I like how you phrase that, like you've drank some of it away.
Drank, hit, done some things. Our goal, like, we are people that have suffered.
We're just regular ass Americans like you.
To us.
And Corione.
But we know what it means to have people like ourselves, you know, podcasters that actually are honest about the way they feel, honest about their suffering, and getting over it, and still having a positive outlook on this world. Like, that's what we came here to do, is to show that despite where we've been, despite how bad it gets, and I know it gets bad for everyone, even for me, this week has been extremely stressful. This month, this year, I'm exhausted. But
me too.
Like Parker said, I'm still here. And if that's why you come to us, if you just want to double check to see if you're making it like the other people barely making it, like, we're poor. We may be hosting on the internet, and you can like look at our backgrounds and think, man, those guys might have more money than me. Don't think that. We don't. If you're making more than $21,000 a year, which is the minimum wage in the United States, you're making about as much as we are. And
something like that. I'm not like, disclosing my current income because anyway.
That's why I picked that number.
Yeah. No, I just don't need the attention.
But I mean, we're not Joe Rogan. We didn't sign $100 million contract.
Joe Rogan. Well, Joe Rogan.
The good thing.
Joe Rogan.
Now, that being said, if you are a producer and you're willing to give us a $100 million contract, we won't say no.
We won't say yes either.
That knob.
Well, yeah.
Start your own network, John. Just kidding. No, we aren't going to sell out by any means, but we are open to deals and we are open to talking. So if you want our pretty faces to help, you know, get what you think is important out there, we'll listen to your ideas, but we're not. Yeah. If any of you guys want to sell out, go right ahead. No, Christmas
I don't
Story
think they know
Christmas
it's
is,
so
like I said, it's a proper sequel, and yes, it does hit those themes. But John, I know what moment you're talking about in the beginning, and it was rough for me too. And I'm like, yeah, struggling author, death of a parent, and like I said, smoking hot wife, and I'm like,
it was when he got home.
huh?
It was when he got home and started helping his mom, and I was just like, like
And
I don't.
all the
My big thing,
casseroles.
my big thing is like, it's the opposite predicament, but also the exact same. Because according to the story, it was the dad that put the majority of the effort into getting Christmas ready. But in our house, it was our mom. Like our dad was way closer to Arnold Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way than he was
That's
to this
right.
character.
Holy shit, you're right.
And I love that we picked all of these movies. Even though I'm not a fan of A Christmas Story, and I didn't finish the new one because it like hit me so hard. But like,
oh dude,
what I am a fan of more than anything is when love is shown lovingly.
Yeah.
And if this wasn't a love for the dad that is the same love that I'm missing, and the same like love that I felt and feel, like then that movie wasn't real. Like, because that's exactly what I felt. The way that he said, the way that he talked about the loss, that's why I couldn't finish. I was like, that's why holidays are dead to me. That's why they've always been dead to me.
Well, one of the things that I did really also think that was important too is the concept of trying to live up to the legacy of a parent, especially when your experience with that parent was as the kid, you know, who worships their parents, right? And then suddenly you are in that situation, you know, that mantle has been thrust upon you, and you're trying to be the one that, you know, is all things to all people. And, you know, if that doesn't tie generations together, I don't know what will. Because that is one of those moments that we all go through, and I'm sure our parents went through it. I'm sure our parents' parents went through it. Like, somewhere way back when, there's some caveman trying to run around finding, like, I don't know, a porcupine to give their son for Christmas, right? Like, we're all there, you know, we all did this. And
I'm definitely sure it was a turbo pine.
Yeah, you know, like, you know, something along those lines. Like, you know, they were looking for just that right fur, right? I mean, that's, you know, but the fact that it's that universal, right? And that it's speaking to those timeless universal things. Like, I know this movie was probably set in like the 70s, but you could have set it modern day. You could have set it with cell phones and Blackberries and everything else, and the core concepts would have worked completely still.
I agree. Yeah,
they absolutely would have worked.
Yeah, John, you definitely got to finish it. The scene that you're talking about, once they have that established, it then churns into the memory lane, going back through the childhood, seeing where all the childhood friends grew up, and it's more of, okay,
that's the thing that I can't do.
Oh, wow.
To me, it's this constant, like, in my own head, in my own world, I have such an issue with going the past and comparing and contrasting, mostly because of anxiety. Like, always double checking, am I better than I was yesterday? But one of the, like, I suffered a huge head injury in 2016. And so because of that head injury, most of my memories are 100% wrong. And in that essence, trying to go back, that's the thing I have to like that's what hurts. That's what's hard, is like, I don't get to remember like most people do. I get to remember the pieces that I remember, but then having to also remember that I don't get to remember everything. It's like, oh yeah, I am disabled. And it's just like for the whole rest of the movie. You know, and that's like a big thing that I have going, like a big issue I had going back with the first Christmas movie. It's like, everybody says this movie's good. I remember watching it every Christmas, on Christmas, before Christmas, leading up to Christmas. It's not good. And all I can remember is that. Like I can't remember all the good times that were like swarmed around it, like cuddling up on the couches and watching with the music and the smells and the sounds. I don't remember any of that. So like part of me like doing this show for me as somebody who doesn't remember anything or hardly anything, our stream is my way of at least saying I said it to the world. And then I can come back one day and I can double check if I said it to the world.
And I'll also say this too, and I think this is an important piece to add. It's actually a very, very good thing that you have this situation the way you do in a lot of ways, because I have nostalgia about the Christmas Story movie. Petey has the nostalgia of it. You're able to take a little bit more of a different view on that. And that's an important piece to it as well, because you're not viewing it through those same lenses, right? You're able to look at it a little more critically than we would be able to, because we've got so many memories tied up with it. So in a lot of ways, that's a good thing too. It gives us a different perspective, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I know it sometimes feels kind of crappy about stuff like this, but there are wonderful pieces to it too. Right? I mean, I envy how many. Yeah, I envy how many first-time experiences you get to have twice, right? Like that's
twice, dog.
It's pretty damn cool.
It's
cool.
Yeah, I have accidentally done the same thing for the first time like 8 times this month.
That's cool as hell, man.
Yeah, it is, and that's why like I don't want to take a bunch of time to be like, oh, woe is me in that I've lost. Instead, like that's all added to like why I just walk away, because like the pain for me is not necessarily reliving the memories, it's the fact that they're not real. When everybody else goes like, do you remember when so-and-so did this thing? And I'm like, which one's so-and-so?
Yeah.
Well,
I get it.
No,
and that makes life itself way more fun and makes it for me a lot easier to live in the moment. But also, I'm only living in this moment. I don't remember the last one.
So, yeah, just taking the Ted Lasso approach and being a goldfish. Well, I mean, like I like to say, hold on a second, I'm going to get to this fan mail. Skoglioten writes in, I can barely piece my 20s together due to 20 years of severe drug and alcohol addiction and 3 extreme bouts of a head trauma. Thank you for sharing. We greatly appreciate that. But also, cheers to you, bro, because you overcame that, and now you do chill streams on your channel where you write songs and you jam. And that's all I know about you right now. But it doesn't look like you're stuck in hard drugs and alcohol anymore. So, yeah, sucks you lost those memories, but good for you, man. At least you come off as stable to me.
Better ones for other people, despite your lack of memory.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing, you know, the hard life lesson there. You know, the thing is, for me, I'm at the point where I've resolved that this existence is like watching your favorite movie for the first time. And I guess in John's case, 8 times. That feeling, that thrill, that excitement is only experienced once. Every time you go back and rewatch it, sure, you kind of re-feel those feelings, but that first time experience only happens once. Well, we could take that a step further for our very existence, this realm of existence that we refer to as the reality or the present. It doesn't matter if you believe in reincarnation, do-overs, separate timelines, happily forever after, doesn't matter. This experience right here and now is one and done. So, just some things to think about for your own life.
Skoglioten writes in, I'm
and
8 years
Skoglioten
sober.
is 8 years sober. Yeah, dude, congratulations on that. It takes a hell of a lot of willpower to make that choice and to stick with it. That is truly commendable, sir.
Absolutely. And I mean, just right there with you. I haven't smoked a cigarette in over 4 years, and that's one thing I'll never go back to. And I'm thankful that I at least, you know, and this is just speaking for me, and hopefully, you know, not saying that you have to do it my way. Thankfully, I'm able to enjoy a cigar every now and then without relapsing, but no, cigarettes I had to give up completely. I wanted to be one of those social smokers that would only smoke while out on the town or with other people who were smoking, but I did not possess the mental prowess, so I eventually just had to kick that gross habit to the curb, and I'm glad I did. My wife is certainly glad I did, and my lungs and voice are very glad that I did. So, also kind of glad that I did try smoking so I could experience it firsthand, sort of. But anyway, no, I mean, as Corion likes to say, those experiences are what make us who we are, even the stupid ones.
No, I 100% agree. I had the exact same logic.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, Scogly, is
laughing because same.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, Scogly. I guess what I'm trying to say is, man, don't beat yourself up about having done it. Just be glad that you overcame it.
But always remember you did overcome it.
If you can, try to learn the lessons from it and remember it and keep it with you, right? You know, the experiences that we have, bad ones, we learn a lot of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to be able to have those experiences at the end of the day.
And the lack of memory thing, if you're somebody like me who doesn't remember on a regular basis, like writing it down works. I'm not 10-second Tom from 50 First Dates. Hi, I'm Tom. You remember that one? It's one of my favorites.
Oh, I don't think I've ever actually sat down to watch that movie, but I definitely remember seeing in the background and going, oh, yeah, that's Adam Sandler.
That movie is hilarious. It's so funny. But it's relatively similar to how my life wakes up. And so if you're somebody that's similar to that, like the way it ends, where she watches a catch-up film every morning to tell she's missed so far, and it's a very brief highlight, because she always wakes up on the same day. I don't wake up on the same day. I wake up today trying to figure out how I got here. Yeah, I equate my daily wake up a lot closer to John Mulaney's understanding of amnesia, where if he woke up and he goes, like, I would never wake up and yell, "Who are you?" I wake up and go, "Hey, bud."
Yeah.
And then piece it all together.
Scogly Yoten writes in, I joke that I'm like Leonard from Memento. That is absolutely not the case, but to a small degree, it's a little bit true.
Or
there's
the
fictional characters.
Version of the fictional version.
I definitely related to, and probably will relate once again here soon, to Dr. Perry Cox from Scrubs. That is one of my fictional. He is one of my fictional heroes.
Dude, I relate to the main character rewatching that show and realizing that, like, he's a guy who graduated college for his doctorate. I realized that, like, he's not an idiot. He just thinks like one.
All right, well then, Barbie, I'm just gonna start addressing you with girl names, and that's gonna be our thing now.
Call me Ken.
All right. Any last? So yeah. So John couldn't finish the homework.
Which is understandable.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I was like, do I want to bust the? Nah. Leave him alone. No, it's fine. This time it's fine. You get a pass.
He had a totally acceptable note from
totally. Yeah, he got a permission slip from our mother. Anyway,
but we will note that this is exactly why I'm always honest. Yep. Like, I tell you when I failed just because I got distracted and forgot.
It's one of the reasons why I don't kick you off all the time.
The other way. Exactly.
Truth and honesty. It really is the only way. So with that, we're moving quite along fast here, but you know what? We've found great ways to tangent. What's up?
I want to talk about Jingle All the Way because
that's why I moved on, so we can talk about Jingle All the Way for the rest of the show.
I was waiting to load it up because I was ready. Like this one, I rewatched this one and it was 100% better than I remembered because I was mixing it with a different movie.
I mean, we'll obviously get into it for the discussion, but it has aged very well.
Schwarzenegger can't act. but he is exactly every buff salesperson. Like, Parker, you remember my best friend Maddie growing up, right?
Yeah.
He scene kid for most of his life, and then suddenly Arnold Schwarzenegger, basically with slightly longer hair and the duck fin for the swoosh, right? But 100% meathead, 100%, like, he took third in his first ever bodybuilding competition where he like does the flex. He tried it one time just to see if he could and took third.
That's awesome.
And so, well, that's what I mean when I paint the picture that he is Arnold.
Yep.
As a person, and then watching this movie, I basically just watched Maddie try to be a dad.
Yeah, and I mean,
and it was hilarious. Like, it wasn't bad acting. It was just also not witty or fully like spoken. It was a lot more like body humor and like juxtaposition, rather than him being like, I'm the funny guy, I'm the witty dad. Instead, he's like, what?
Yeah.
I loved
honestly,
this movie.
Yeah, and the best part about it is, I mean, it was written, like, you can clearly tell it's a 90s movie that came out after the fiasco that was Tickle Me Elmo, right? I mean, like, you can 100% see that that's where the writers took.
Hold on. We're skipping ahead. So let's get a play-by-play going. So,
Yeah.
Jingle All the Way. Darth Vader's dad, T-800, forgets to get his son.
That explains why the mom said he had no dad. It's T2. This is Vader Genesis before Sarah Connor shows up again.
Yeah, except that Schwarzenegger almost says the line from Empire Strikes Back, referring to him, I'm your father. This is 3 years before he appears as Anakin Skywalker. Just throwing that out there. But anyway, yeah, Darth Vader's dad at T-800.
I actually was legitimately wondering the timeline, because I couldn't tell if
this movie was 96. This movie was 96. So Phantom Menace was 99.
Yeah.
Man, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So yes, T-800 dad forgets to buy the super special Christmas gift, and so he needs to go on a quest to find the special Turbo Man doll, which we end up with a total in-universe meta fight scene at the end, which, yeah, we'll get into that.
Turbo time. Does anybody know the show I Think You Should Leave?
Can't say that I do.
In the first episode, there's a scene where he talks about, has this ever happened to you? And at one point, these two people go, it's turbo time. And they start running all over your apartment and jumping on your bed, and then you try to join them, and they go, you can't join us. You're not part of the turbo team. You can't run until we say so. It's turbo time. You go and walk slowly. It's one of the funniest stand-up skit shows of all time. If you haven't seen I Think You Should Leave on Netflix, you absolutely should. It's hilarious and all things perfect about sketch comedy. But they yell, it's turbo time. And when you yelled that at the beginning of the broadcast, it collided in my head, and I've been waiting until now to bring that up.
Okay.
Yeah. John, you need to work on your levels. We got some feedback saying that you talk softly, but I'm loudly, and I'm not turning myself down for obvious reasons.
Oh, I thought I adjusted.
If I have to adjust the settings, they just get broadcast out live, and I really don't want to clutter the screen with that shit. Still quiet.
Let us know in the chat. How am I coming in?
Yeah.
I boosted my audio reception.
So
I'll boost myself to 100%.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, there you go.
Try 150.
All right. Very well.
Go ahead, Corion.
Yeah, so this definitely has that, epic quest almost feel to it, but you've also got to feel a lot for the dad, because
John, you're skipping again.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, I think you got to turn it back down. You're just gonna have to talk louder, or I guess restart. We'll get a show without glitches one day, but it is not this day.
But that day is not this day. Yeah. You know, there will come a day when the strength of lag fails, but it is not this day. So, no, I don't know. I love this movie. I love it because, you know, it was definitely written at that time after the Tickle Me Elmo fiasco that happened in the 90s. It had that epic, you know, people trampling each other to get a toy for their kid moments that were starting to get frighteningly more and more common. And, you know, it really spoke to, I think, like a lot of the hype of that era. And yet the concept of the dad willing to do just about anything to give the kid the best Christmas they possibly, timeless, man. That trying to do right by your kids when they really need you to do right by them, that's a timeless piece of it. And, you know, the perfect foil for somebody like Arnold was Sinbad. It absolutely was Sinbad. Because you had a guy who absolutely has fantastic timing.
Yeah.
Has that slick humor down perfectly.
Yeah. No, I could totally see why in this film, you know, you see this in 96 and that's the same year as Independence Day. Nice. And then, you know, you're like, you know, this is ridiculous. Adults fighting over the last toy and come on, that's not going to happen. Oh, Black Friday eventually evolved into that. I don't remember it being that chaotic in the 90s, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
No, I think Black Friday is chaotic where it's chaotic, and it always has been.
Started.
We just now get to see.
Okay, because then Sinbad also has that rant about consumerism and everything, and I'm like, wow, this movie has aged very well so far. And I will agree, Corey, the story is definitely there. It's still good. It's just, when we get to the last sequence, we could have ended the movie 10, 15 minutes earlier. Like, it didn't need to be drawn out to that ridiculous extreme where they go through the whole fight. It was like, okay, we could have still done some cool theatrics and made this convincing. Now we've nuked the fridge. Okay. That's really where the movie just kind of falls off the rails a little bit. But I still love the idea because it's fantastic. It's a dad who has failed to keep his promises because he's trying to provide for his family, but he's too caught up in work life. He doesn't know how to properly balance it. And so instead, he's afforded this miracle chance from life to actually become one of his son's heroes. And it's like, isn't that any struggling dad's dream? No, I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good.
It 100%. Yeah.
So it's...
Not just struggling dad. That's what I love this is it's not just that he's like failing to keep to his promises, he's keeping his promise. But then there's the day-to-day promises. Like his biggest promise is providing for the family financially so that they always have a bank to fall on so that they can always pay for their dreams and their goals. And you hear the son, like, what did he miss? Like he missed different like expensive activities that the son's in, like karate, and he's like, what, Anakin is like 10 years old, the actor, in 99, so in this movie he's supposed to be playing like, what, a 3 to 6 year old,
I think, yeah,
right?
6, 7, something like that.
Something like that.
So this kid, it said I think he was getting his like purple belt or yellow belt, which like in
blue.
karate he gets his blue belt. In karate for kids, like they progress a little bit faster, but like it is still pretty substantial, which means that like dad's paying a pretty penny for this kid to go to a pretty good school to learn pretty good karate. And so like dad's nailing the bank portion of being a dad, but he is dropping the ball in the day-to-day portion because like it showed us that dad works a job that is very day-to-day, like, and just remember, we appreciate your business. And he even messes up and says it to his wife.
Oh, you're my
like,
favorite customer.
You're my favorite customer. That's what he says. And he keeps saying it because, like, that's his sign-off sign at work. And so he's been spending more mental time at work to provide that bank. And this movie is exactly the hero's journey that every dad faces. Like, oh, like, and I brought this up at the beginning of the show, like, maybe not the beginning of the show, maybe like in the pre-show, but I brought up that, like, I have been just exhausted from this, like, getting ready for the show, that I literally was like, I have one day to go Christmas shopping, and my wife was like, I love shopping in that part of town. And then she, like, jumped on and took the shopping experience, so that, like, I took care of the son. But then I was like, I bought nobody Christmas presents. Because I did exactly what he did. I literally saved it to the last second in my time off. I worked all the way through Christmas Eve. So everything was closed by the time I got off work that day. And I was like, I got no time.
Well, you know what?
This is the hero's journey. The modern day consumer world, capitalism market. This is what the hero suffers. Versus, like, the heroic fight a dragon. No, in the quiet times that we live in, the hero gets his kid turbo time on Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, for me, one noteworthy thing I noted earlier, or when I was watching the film, got a special appearance by Yardley Smith, who voices Lisa Simpson. I didn't catch that as a kid, but when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's Lisa! What else? Oh, and, you know, the reason why their household is so secure is because, well, Arnold married a woman that can also take care of herself. When the desperate, eligible, bachelor, creepy neighbor tries to work his way in...
He was not creepy. He was literally the epitome of, like, I don't like these terms because they're not scientifically accurate, but everybody understands them. But he was the epitome of a beta going for an alpha. And she was an alpha woman.
Were you not watching the screen when he grabbed the apron from her? That's a little personal there. Unless that kind of rapport is established, I would not be okay with that personally.
No, there was, like, actual dialogue. That's why I say this movie wasn't written like Arnold Schwarzenegger's an idiot and everybody on it just wrote for dumb people. Like, all the other people that could talk did talk, and they talked very well, but, like, there was an established rapport that, like, this beta neighbor had been, like, yeah, I'm not saying he wasn't pervy or he wasn't forward. I'm saying that, like, they took the time to make him think that he was winning because she was just polite.
Right. She was patient.
Is the majority of, well, polite. Like, she wasn't even hardly patient. She's like, I don't need.
No, I would argue she was patient with him. I disagree. I think she was. I think she was patient because she didn't.
Polite.
I disagree. You can be polite and be impatient.
True. Okay. Oh, yeah, I hear you. And I'll concede that. Yeah, I hear you on that. And I mean more polite in the
Please
general,
hurry the hell
like.
Up.
Well, no. So, like, I thought it was so funny that, like, they actually showed what he had assumed were go signs. Like, he was like, yeah, you are making progress in his own head, and he actually explained that. Like, and so for her to be like, you're just over assuming. Like,
yeah, I was being but then nice, she says it. She says it,
and he
didn't back down.
Right,
almost got the clobbering of a lifetime from Arnold, but instead, you know, gets a face full of his own bullshit, which, close enough.
Right, and I love that this movie did that. Like,
yeah, me too.
I there's a lot of, like, people that will say, like, our media has been washing, like, constantly making it okay for men to be abusive and assertive. And we go back and we watch a movie in 96, and it's like, no, that guy was the bad guy. And he was the bad guy from the beginning, but then they accurately painted it. Like, they didn't just give him this, like, sinister, like, I'm going to sleep with your wife.
No, he was more subtle about those intentions.
It was a human. Well, he was a human. And it was well, like, acted and well, like, characterized, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
and it's just good to know that, like, when we go, hey, I think this was a good movie, let's all rewatch this and then talk about it live. It's nice to know that, like, that was a solid point to be made in the movie.
Yeah, but I mean, looking back at 96 and the delusion of the 90s that I remember growing up in, and I mean, most all of us grew up under that same delusion, more or less. You know, I could see people thinking how absurd that him taking on an entire group of grifting Santa Clauses might be, or, you know, a gag bomb going off, and here we are in 2022, and I'm like, what? It's just another Tuesday. Obviously, this is normal. Now, the part, like I said, where it falls off the rails as we keep going with the whole flying stuff and the jetpack being real and functional, and while cool and certainly something I wouldn't mind having to go to and from work with, those effects did not hold up at all. They definitely took the cheaper route with that stuff. It's clear that the film budget probably could have sustained a lot better had they, like I said, had they just cut 15 minutes of that crap out and just made the fight stay on the float. And you still could have had the moments where, oh, I was gonna get it, I had the toy in hand, and the kid decides to give it to him, and they drop the charges. That would have been fine. But it's like, all right, we get what you were going for in the pre-Marvel era. It just didn't stick the landing on that for me. But I still like the story. I'll probably watch this movie again next year because it's you guys are so right. It's all wow, we picked some strong dad movies for our Christmas films. Yeah. Holy crap. Yeah, it's really it's still got a good story, and that's really what matters most at the end of the day. You know, people look at Star Trek, the original series, and like, the effects are crap, and it's old, and its dialogue is cringy. And I'm like, in some episodes, you are justified in that assertion. In a lot of them, you're a dumbass. So, it's a little harsh way of putting it, but though, I mean, if you
as somebody who absolutely loves effects and what they've become today, just all versions, whether it's sound, visual, cinematography, filming even, like, I've started to really grow an appreciation for that as well. Like, watching these older movies, comparing them to like what I know today, it's like, wow, you guys have gotten good. Oh yeah. And I appreciate that. I like a lot of people like banking and lawyering has been made difficult because they've just added more complex language. But filming has gotten more difficult because they've added quality in all different respects, and that is so awesome. Like, congrats, like, you guys really have progressed. As far as a school that was like made fun of and told that you would never be considered art, and now you like watching a 96 film and then watching a today film, like, literally we did Toy Story, or not Toy Story, A Christmas Story, and then now it's 2022. And then we watched Jingle All the Way, and that was 96, and the just pure, not even just the difference in that effects scene, but in the light scale. Like, yeah. Wow, were those films bright for no reason.
Well, I actually have a reason why they were that bright. If you're interested in a little bit of cinema history.
No, I love it.
Okay. The original series of HD cameras were really terrible at picking up light sources. So they had to really dial up the brightness on everything in order for the HD cameras to pick stuff up. The problem was, that's what they were told. But in post-production, they were also told that, so they upped the light as well. So everything winds up looking super bright in the 90s because the camera technology was just, you know, when you filmed it natural and the director saw it, he was like, wow, this is dark. So you can actually even see it in like classic 90s TV series like Stargate, anything that was set up to do HD.
How much of that had nothing to do with the camera and everything to do with the brightness on the screen that it was being fed back on.
Well, exactly, right? That's
like
how
literally
much fun it
those
is.
screens couldn't go brighter, so when he's reading, he's like, yeah, this is really dark. It's really green for some reason. We got to really yellow this up. Because that's what the other thing you see is there's so much white.
Yep.
And it's so bright. And it's like, why would you do that unless you're watching from a green screen?
Well, yeah, that's
like those
that's
old,
why
shitty television screens.
That's why the Batman the Animated Series is such a standout, because it's one of the few products of the 90s that's actually dark. And you want to know, do you know why?
I do know why.
Well, I know you do. What about you? You don't know why, John? So they actually animated that show on black paper. Right?
To me, that's the only thing that makes sense. When it
Duh.
comes to coloring, coloring on black is the way to go, because all of the black parts need color.
Mm-hmm.
Versus white paper, it's you just have infinite possibility. All of this could be colored, every little detail. And it's negative space matters. With black, it's obvious. With white, it's not.
Yeah. And those are the neat little pieces of cinema that are to learn and find out about. And it's you sit there going this is kind of trivia, but then when you start rewatching classic stuff with that knowledge, you start picking up a whole lot of little nuanced pieces that you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Yeah, on our Lord of the Rings.
Is that why other shows are being too dark now?
Yes.
Because in real time they're getting the right colors and they're seeing what they're trying to project, but then post is we gotta darken this up.
Yep.
And then they black it.
Yep.
Wow. Alright guys. Stop overcorrecting.
Yeah, maybe you should bring someone
And
who's
give you props for getting so much progress, but also
maybe you should bring in someone who's a little light sensitive and color tarded to maybe try to help do some balancing on that.
Dude.
But, yeah, you're color tarded too, I forgot.
Yeah, the game industry though, they actually have accessibility features where you can change to the color tarded.
I don't utilize those.
Movies.
I like the way I see colors.
I do too. Mostly because their other versions are the worst team. I don't want to fight yellow team or orange team. I'll fight red team.
See, I don't know, man. I'll be honest, I see in the
bad.
Windows default 16 colors, that's it.
Wait a minute.
Anything else is just an ooey or an ish of those 16 colors.
But no, yeah, no, it's always cool to find out all the different. So watching Lord of the Rings this time around, I noticed a lot of the tricks that they used for the illusion, but that's what I actually ended up enjoying it even more this time, was because of how much I didn't notice the first 500 times I watched Lord of the Rings. It's really, yeah, it really just shows when you actually want to put together a quality product versus throwing out the corporate trash that we've had in the last couple of years. But it seems that things are starting to trend a little better. I mean, Top Gun Maverick did really good. And I think that's a sign of where movies are headed. Obviously, this Christmas Story film is a freaking grand slam.
Yeah, I would even argue that Avatar 2, we finally got a good dad in a movie. For the first time in what feels like 5 to 10 years. We got an honest to goodness caring dad that is part of their family and is doing everything he can to protect his kids. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I
feel like we got that in a couple of the shows we've talked about.
Yeah, no, a couple of the shows, but
well.
He's talking about a movie, which, they're still technically different, even though Orville Season 3 has 3 movies to finish it. And that's what I've really liked seeing too. Is strong dad characters. It's fine to have some strong mom characters as well, but we also got to balance it out with the other side and restate, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. Reinforce or reinvigorate's a good one. The importance of strong dads in lives, or in our lives, and in society.
The best thing about these movies that are highlighting strong dads, they're not denigrating the mothers to highlight the dad. Like,
it's
usually
not that
the
hard.
mom is most likely stronger. The mom is most likely doing more effort, even in like the films that we've watched. Or in I want to say it was The Old Man, the mom was substantially smarter than the dad, but passed away earlier. And because she passed away earlier, like both the mom, or not the mom, the daughter and the dad recognized the loss and both accounted for it and adapted to it in their own ways, but also as a team. And that didn't, like, the dad still being a strong dad and a good dad wasn't denigrated by the mother's strength. Like, I think that was where a lot of it was like fathers were denigrated to project stronger mothers, but it's like, no, most of us know our mom does the majority of the hands-on work. Most of us know that matters. But our dads also do a lot of work we don't see.
Yeah, John, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit when you said the moms are stronger. Look, I think it's something I like to call perfect imbalance, in that, yeah, the mom may be stronger in some categories, and then the dad is stronger in other categories, but working together is where they find the balance out. That's how it should be with any partnership, where you balance out the strengths and weaknesses of your partner.
Yeah, you're supposed to be a team.
And that's the goal.
I agree.
That's it.
And I more meant to project from the perspective. Like in a lot of these shows, sometimes the mom is perceived as the stronger, smarter, better one. And in a lot of cases, all they do is just denigrate the dad. Like, Family Guy is the perfect example. And the comparison between Family Guy and the Orville shows that Seth knows what he's doing. Like, he's intentionally denigrating Peter and intentionally propping up Lois, but then takes time to also show that Lois was dumb enough to marry Peter. And
yeah,
that's what I'm talking about, is like a good quality show may make it look like mom did everything and dad is just adapting to mom's loss. But like, if even look at The Old Man, where it looks like that, like both of them held mom as if she was a goddess and they were mere mortals graced by her presence. But dad was also James Bond. Yeah. You know, dad also saved mom. Like, and all of that was shown. Whereas like with Peter, like, we never really see him winning Lois over. We see him getting Lois. But we also see Lois being like, I want that.
Yeah, but Family Guy is also intentionally going above.
I use them as a visualization for the paradigm. Because there's a ton of shows since not shows, but movies, where like they're trying to like feminism the message, and all they do is paint the dad and all the men as Peter. And then they try to make Lois look good.
Okay, good point.
Yeah. And that's the thing that like bothers me. And that's why I love using the Orville versus Family Guy. Is like they're both intentional. And they're both equally thought out, equally developed, and equally positioned to go their own ways. And they absolutely do. But at the same time, they're polar opposites. And so to me, they're a good benchmark for like, especially where a lot of people have gone. Because they're like, I learned this really early on, but most TV is made for women because who's at home? Yeah. Who's changing the channel? And that was
just the kids. Both parents work typically.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody ever accounted for that. Except for Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and Disney. Those three powerhouses absolutely accounted for it.
And like, former powerhouses. Let's not get carried away.
Yeah. Well, they got bought out because they were powerhouses. And then the buyers, who are the powerhouses' powerhouse, did what monopolies do and failed. But like, that's, to me, I think that's like the big thing about like this whole film, doing what you're doing. Like, do what you know is right, and you're not going to get everybody. most likely not going to get China, because like a lot of what's okay in America is not okay in China. So be willing to whittle it down if you need the Chinese audience, or don't.
Or
because
yeah,
you
don't
stick to your reality.
yeah, exactly.
But just sell your thing, because like you're alive now. All of the market statistics are always alive. Like I'm pretty sure there's some idiot senior level manager in marketing that still says the only people that turn on the TV are women. They're the only ones home. Except nobody's home. Everybody's working 3 jobs. So like nobody's turning the TV on. Nobody exists. Everybody's dead.
Everybody streams on demand now.
Don't make this movie. And then we lose all the good movies. Like, just go for it. And tell that marketing idiot he's an idiot. Tell him to go talk to his customers. Stop reading the data and go meet it. Like, the data's right, but you're reading it wrong. You're not accounting for anything new. You're not accounting for change. You're not accounting for today versus yesterday versus the aggregate. And that, I think, is the major issue with, like, films. Is because Jingle All the Way doesn't make any sense. In 96, Rockets, for a toy, like, I do get what you said about the Tickle Me Elmo thing, but, like, usually, there's more product than there is demand, no matter what they tell you. Look at Diamonds.
Oh, yeah. No, look. Let's be freaking. Well, yeah. I mean, let's be.
Diamonds are just as fake as dollars.
One's cheaper. How much do you want to bet that, like, if he messed with the head on the American one, it broke just as fast?
Well, see, the thing. Okay, I'm gonna give that one a pass because I think
that they made it.
I think that you're analyzing the point a little hard there, because the obviously. Yes, when he gets the real Turbo Man doll, that I was like, that's like some piece of shit I could pick up at the dollar store. Okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, though, playing with any toy.
It's a prop. That's what you gotta think. Well, no, you gotta think of it like.
I'm just saying he never manhandled the American one because it spoke English.
I guess not.
But like, if Arnold Schwarzenegger messes with any action figure in the 90s, it breaks the way it broke.
I guess. I see what you're saying. Oreo, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I mean, just one of the other pieces I wanted to bring up. I was super excited to see Curtis Armstrong in this, the guy who played Booster. You know, because I was sitting there going like, dude, Family Guy alum representing, right? You know?
Yeah.
Dude, I did not know that connection, and I love that. But I just also want to shout out how much effort they put into the Turbo Time character.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was full on, like, if I was a child of that age that wanted that toy at that time, I would have been like, where's my Turbo Time, Dad? You failed at Christmas. Turbo Man. Where's my Turbo Man?
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure Disney was probably...
Dude, that was a movie we watched.
I'm sure Disney's probably thinking of rebooting it now and creating its own universe, since, you know,
its own cinematic universe.
Marvel.
Man.
The universe of universes. Just stop telling them how to write.
Well, I mean, look, I get that people... Okay. Things are hot until they're no longer hot, because Hollywood will take any trend and beat it to death to try to make a buck out of it.
Okay. Let's just now hold on. Let's not just blame Hollywood. Let's blame the trendies as well. Okay.
I agreed. But I mean, like, let's be honest. Hollywood is where cool things go to die, right? Because like, once Hollywood gets a hold of it, and they'll run it into the ground because the marketing people say something's popular right now. So they do everything in that way and go way overboard, right?
The Writer brothers would be more popular if we had that kind of support, but
well, you know.
Yeah.
We're just going to build our own. I do get it. You know, and I do get it, because like what happens is like the one marketing, like all the marketing guys make the same decision that like, wow, you know, movie universes are hot right now. And then every studio does it. Right, and they think they're doing it on their own, but really it's like 15 of them happening at the same time, and they're all not talking to each other, right?
Bro, they probably all sent each other a meme.
right? You know,
movie theaters or movie universes are hot right now. Think about it.
Yeah.
And then they're all like, "Oh, I was thinking the same thing."
Right. I mean,
and
like,
then did it.
Honestly, like movie studios, if you're watching, and I know you are, dude, as soon as you see one of these like trends starting to happen, go in the complete opposite direction, right? Because I guarantee you, you will make more money than all of them, and they will all start rushing to follow you.
Like, also, recognize that you're all doing the same thing. Like, you all are just making the circle pop rather than pushing the bubble out. Like, the thing about like bubble economics is if the bubble keeps getting bigger sustainably, it becomes a market.
Yep.
So like with these universes, you all decided to just collapse in and start talking about modern whatever's hot on Twitter politics. All of you did.
Yep.
At the same time. And you picked the exact same 3 top trending things. Feminism, LGBTQIA+, and teenage mortality, I guess. Yeah. And all of you picked those 3. Like, not one of you was like, hey, let's check this top 10 chart and we'll pick the bottom 3.
Yeah.
And we'll pick the middle 3.
Well, and I mean, video game companies do the same thing. Like, have you ever noticed how, like, it'll be the year of the FPS?
Producers do, but indies don't.
Yeah, true. But, like, you know, like, all the AAA titles, it's like, okay, this year we're releasing our, like, Elden Ring clones, or, like, this year everybody's doing FPS or whatever, right? Or not FPS.
Everybody's doing hard mode as normal.
Yeah, like, guys, whenever you see somebody trying to get a trend going, go in the opposite direction, and I guarantee you, you will pick up people just because they don't want to be part of the trend.
Yeah, they're called hipsters.
Thing. How about do your thing?
Yeah.
Like, I love going to Ubisoft for the Ubisofts. Like, I love getting my Tom Clancy. I absolutely love everything. Ghost Recon, Division, Splinter Cell. Love my Tom Clancy. But I love Ubisoft for what they've done with it.
Yeah.
For the most part. But then I also love going to my Bethesda for anything Bethesda related, whether it's Fallout, Skyrim. Those are the 2 that I remember.
They're doing a new sci-fi based one that looks an
Star
awful lot.
Something or other.
Yeah,
it looks amazing. It looks like the pretty No Man's Sky.
I was about to say, it looks like what we were promised for No Man's Sky.
Dude, we got what we were promised for No Man's Sky, and at no extra charge.
Yeah.
At no extra charge though.
True.
Like, they got procedural planets, and then we were like, we wanted everything else, and they were like, we're working on it.
All right, real quick.
You're never gonna have to pay for it. And they have. And it's No Man's Sky team, like, you took a while, but you did it. Yeah. You're beautiful.
All right.
Any final words for Jingle All the Way, or we continue our last 7 minutes of ranting?
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, you knew how to act. You knew your role. Like, that movie, like, he didn't overstep his spot. He was the guy that barely spoke English. He was the guy that couldn't get a full witty comment out. And he respected that. And he, like, well done. That was a great movie. And it still holds up. Like, there was...
But, like I said, for me, it's that final scene that just is like, all right, we get it. We could have cut this into... We could have cut some of this ridiculous stuff out, and it would have still been the same movie. And that's really what it kills it for me. Otherwise, everything else is fine. And like I said, it's aged like a good wine, other than the long drawn out ending.
Well, that's why I say, like, that's why I pointed out that, like, well done filmography. Everybody who has to do with filmography, you've gotten better, and that is why I enjoy that scene. It's so bad that it tells me what good looks like, because I can compare and contrast so easily.
And I think my takeaway from the rewatch of this was, yo man, check out Sinbad as a comedian, because, you know, this is a good gateway to get into his like kind of weird comedy, if you like that kind of weird comedy.
And maybe check out Sinbad as Kazam.
Yeah.
Or Shazam.
Yeah.
Who knows? Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another Rogue Council topic we could hit on. So
Man,
this
at
was.
some point we're gonna have to do those, but
This was great. Oh, we'll definitely get to that. This was a good set of movies, and this is made for a fantastic discussion. So, I do want to thank all of our viewers, past, present, and future, for tuning in. We do appreciate this. We love just getting together and talking about this stuff, and so, we love having you guys participate in the chat when you do, and if you don't and you like to listen to us talk, we'll do our best to put on the show. I mean, really, we're kind of here to serve. So.
Also, if you don't like our random ranting, going rabbit trails off topic to whatever, let us know. I enjoy it very much.
Well, so here's the way feedback works.
Hold on. I want to pitch this. I want to say we have been doing it a lot more often. We're letting it go a lot more often. We're having a lot more fun with it. We're getting a lot less formulaic about our episodes. If you don't like it, let us know. If you do like it, let us know. Like, we want to know what you like. I'm starting to really enjoy it. Our new formula of just, this is where we're at, this is where we're going. If you guys are having an issue with it to some degree, let us know. But, like, I just want to know when we should start dragging back to the main topic.
And I also want to make it perfectly clear, though. I want to make it perfectly clear, however, that all feedback is appreciated. However, that does not mean that we are going to adopt every single idea or suggestion that we get. And if we don't adopt your suggestion, it's nothing personal. It just means we probably don't feel that it's going to work. But fair enough. You've asked the audience. Relentlessly Relentless says, good show. So I think our tangents that happen naturally when they do are pretty good overall, I'd say. And I think we had a great show all around.
Also add on to the feedback thing. As a manager, a QA specialist, sometimes your feedback isn't read the way you thought it would be read. So,
yeah, I do personally try not to take things personally.
If you want us to really change what you want, like, be specific and, like, send us numbers so we can rewatch the dialogue.
Yeah,
to double
no,
check.
Things like go F yourselves and you all suck. That's just like
Not
cool. We're
from
just
us.
gonna keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
but,
and we're not gonna send it back. We had somebody write in that we were boring for our Amazon special, and I was gonna go like double check to respond, and Parker already had, and he wrote, "Love the feedback. Can you elaborate?" And that's our motto.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
that's our version of responding.
please explain
to
how
feedback.
we suck, and we'll consider whether or not it's worth changing.
And
Also,
we'll
at the same
listen.
time, we're still finding our audience, and we accept the fact that we might not be for you. And if that's the case, we appreciate you at least trying, and that's really all we want.
This is
like, bro, make your case.
This is our like we're calling out to studios and marketers, like, go and talk to your audience. This is us literally doing it.
Yep.
We are literally
Exactly.
asking our audience to talk to us.
So, yes. But as speaking of audience, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, past, present, future, especially on our podcast listeners. We also appreciate when you tune into our other content or spread it around. So, yeah, as John said, we do appreciate feedback. We will take it under advisement or consideration. Always. It's just, we want to help make this network special
We'll
for everyone.
respond accordingly.
We will respond truthfully and accordingly, and if we don't feel your feedback makes sense, we're going to articulate that, but it's coming from a place of good faith and genuine, okay, we just don't get what you're trying to say here. That's really also what I want to get across as well. Because our plan for this show is it will be entirely listener-supported, more or less. But more on that once we get closer to our 1-year anniversary. Otherwise, any final thoughts? Oh, yeah. We will not be back next week. We are going to be back on January 10th. We're taking that Tuesday off, but we will also have Rogue Council on Corione's channel going over the World War I conspiracy from James Corbett.
December 31.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corion's
So-
birthday. You all are invited,
I'm Petey York with the Writer Brothers.
or you're not.
We'll see you when we see you. This has been a presentation of the Writer Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Writer Brothers, restoring respect into